Hello Wanderlust Hearts and welcome back to Wanderlust Cover, and this is my first video for the new year, and I don't want you to judge me. I know my Christmas tree is still up, but basically that is up year round. I really change up my colors and my Christmas tree is part of my decoration. But today my topic is going to be on Carnival cabin tips. So I'm going to give you some tips on what to do or what not to do in your cabin, and let's just get right into it. So tip number one would be to record or take pictures the moment you enter your cabin. And the reason why I say that is in the event there is anything wrong or anything that is not in place or to your liking, you would be able to show that and you would have that proof that you just walked in and this is what you saw and you would like to have that change. Now, tip number two, the moment you walk in, there will be a little light switch. And on most Carnival cruises, especially the newer ones, there will actually be a switch and you would actually have to put your room key in there in order for your lights to stay on and all the other lights in the room to be functionable. So instead of having to use your room key, which may also cause you to forget it when you're leaving, you can actually fold a hard piece of paper. Normally they have paper around on your desk when you arrive. You can use that, or you can use something else in the form of your room key that's hard like that, and you can just put it in there and you can just keep it there for the duration of your cruise. Now, tip number three, which is still a part of tip number two, would be to actually learning where all the different lights are in your cabin. So there's going to be a lot of different switches, different places. Some may be by the vanity desk, some may be by your bed. Then you have your bathroom light. They're going to be in different places, and you should just familiarize yourself as to where these are so that you don't have any annoyance to yourself or the person that you're sharing the room with. Especially at night, you don't want to turn on the big bright light when you was only trying to turn on the night light or your reading light or what's not. Now, tip number four would be to unpack. So I highly recommend on day one, if possible, it's what I do. I highly recommend you unpacking, and why I say that is to avoid any congestions in your room and to just have a more smoother cruise. I think it's best to just unpack on day one at whatever point you feel is good. And I'm going to have some Amazon products in the description as to what can actually make this much smooth. And some of those items would be like a collapsible hamper or wall hooks or laundry bags or even over the door hangers. They usually use them for shoes, but I find these to be really helpful to have storage on the cruise. You can put different items in them, including your shoes if you want to use it for your shoes, but you can also put some of your toiletries or what's not in those as well. So all of those things can actually help you with storage on your cruise and just help your room to be a little more organized and a little more spacious. And while you're at it, once you're done with unpacking, then you can go ahead and just push your suitcase or whatever luggage you have underneath your bed to be out of the way during the duration of your cruise. And trust me, it's going to be so much smoother. Now, tip number five, there's actually a seat in your room. It's normally located right under the table where your vanity mirror may be. And if you lift off the cover for it, it can actually be used as an additional storage space. Now, tip number six, use your safe. Now, your safe is normally located in the closet and it's really easy to use. In most cases, you just enter a 4-digit code and you put in your items and then you just close it back to lock it, and then you use that same code again to reopen it when you're ready. And I would say use those to store all your valuables like jewelry, money, passports, maybe your cell phones or whatever you choose. But definitely it is very good to make good use of that. So tip number seven would be to familiarize yourself with where are all your outlets and USB plugs so that you'll be able to know where they are when you're ready to utilize them. And in the description, I'll also give you some examples of non-surge power strip as well as portable chargers that are cruise approved. Tip number 8, in your bathroom there will actually be a line that you can pull across and you can hook it in order to use that as a clothesline for any wet clothes or towels you may have. I use it all the time. It's really strong. Only so much can fit on it, but it's still good for like your swimsuits or what's not. Tip number 9 would be to utilize your fridge. And you might think this is obvious, but there's actually some persons that don't use it. It's not a freezer or anything, but it's just something to keep your drinks or your food or your fruits cool if you were to bring them to the room, because you don't have to eat in the restaurants. If you don't like, you can eat in your room, and you just want to keep your food at a good temperature. And another tip while we're on food is try not to bring foods to your room that has strong odors, because it'll leave that scent in your room, and I'm sure you aren't gonna want those smells to be locked in your room for the duration of your cruise. Tip number 10 would be while you're in your cabin to avoid making loud noises. While we're not saying that your cabin is a library or anything like that, but you don't want to disturb persons that are on vacation that may be in their cabin and actually trying to rest or anything like that. So especially at night, just try to keep your tune down a bit, or if you have kids, try to control them to just be respectful of other person's space. Because the rooms are really close together, and the truth is you will hear each other, but at least keep it at a moderate tune. So tip number 11, and this is another thing a lot of persons actually don't use while they're on their cruise, but you can, especially if you decide that you want to be in the room for a while, then you can actually use your television. And your TV don't only just show your name on there as well as the destinations that you're going to, but you can also watch movies. Some of the movies are free, you can pay for some, and they actually give you tips on the cruise. They actually tell you some of the excursions that are offered at the different destinations, or you can even see on the cruise in certain areas like the Lido deck. You can see what's going on there whenever they're having activities or whatever the case may be. Now these next 2 tips actually are going to be for persons that have balcony cabins. So tip number 12, never open both your balcony door and your entrance to the cabin door at the same time, because you will have an extremely big gush of wind that's going to flow through, and if you have anything hanging around that's lightweight or anything, it's going to tumble over or fly, and you don't want all of that ruckus going on. So if you're going to open your entrance door to go out and your balcony door is open, it's best to close that before you do that to avoid any of that happening. Now, tip number 13 for balcony cabins. And I'm sure you aren't the only person that has probably thought of doing this. A little romance on your balcony, that is fine and well, but just take into consideration that even though everyone have their own private balconies, that it's not 100% private. So some balconies may have like a space underneath that you can see, or some may even show a shadow, or may even have a crack in between you and the other persons. So you just want to take that into consideration. Now, tip number 14, you don't want to leave anything that you don't want your cabin attendant to see just hanging around in the open. So for example, you may decide to spice things up and want to bring a lingerie, and something like that you'd want to just keep in a hamper or somewhere secure that your cabin attendant won't just see it out into the open, because even though they aren't going to be digging through your items, you don't want it to just be laying out somewhere, and then the next time you see your cabin attendant, you notice a weird reaction from them because of what they've seen. But just take that into consideration. Tip number 15, I would say decorate your door, or buy at least one item or sign or door magnet that you'll be able to recognize your room door whenever you leave and want to come back. You'll be able to notice it more easily. So it would be just best to have something that would be easy to recognize your room cabin. And tip number 16, whenever you're leaving your cabin, you want to confirm that your door is closed. That's whether you're entering your cabin, you want to make sure that it's closed properly, as well as when you're leaving, because you don't want anyone to just push your room door open and have access to your room and your valuables. So you just want to make sure, pull it in, because sometimes it does look closed, but it's not actually closed. but you want to make sure pull it in, and then you want to make sure turn to make sure you have it securely closed. And last but not least, tip number 17, and this goes for all cabins, whether you have a balcony, ocean view, interior, suite, there's no smoking allowed in your cabins. And there are very high fines that you would pay if you are found smoking in your cabins, and sometimes you can even be put off the ship for doing this. So just avoid smoking in your cabins at all. There are places on the cruise that you can actually go and smoke, and there are certain things that you cannot smoke. But I will put a link in the description so that you can see all of those things that you can or cannot smoke on the cruise. But thank you guys for watching this video. I hope this video was very helpful to first-time cruisers or cruisers that may just have forgotten one or two things, that this may refresh in your memory. But if I forgot anything out, just leave it in the description so that you can help me or someone else in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and before you leave, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much for watching Wanderlust Travel. Bye!